Thank you for tuning into Faces of Hope, a series brought to you by the St. Mary Ann Cope Shrine and Museum. Kate Mahoney leads us in candid conversations of hope and healing and inspiration from people who share the values of Mary Ann in their day-to-day lives and work. Today's episode, The Interconnectedness of Everything, with Caryn Crook. Caryn is a sister in St. Mary Ann's community, the Sisters of St. Francis of the Newman Communities. Through teaching discernment, she helps women become aware of what doors are open to them and challenges them to have the courage and faith to cross the threshold into what life has to offer.
Good morning, Sister Caryn. It's so fun to be with you.
Good to be with you as well.
How has your day started today?
Well, I think we have a water main break. The water's brown, but
yeah,
I already took my shower, so hopefully my water tank will be okay, but that's
Okay. Yeah, we actually are dealing with something similar to that. I think we're on the other side of like the insurance claims and stuff, but the work still has to get done. And I will say that kind of repair is not in my wheelhouse. So I am very grateful to our plumbing crew and, damage remediation, all that stuff. Yeah. So thanks so much for carving out a little time in your day. And I think it is a snowy day where both of us are, right? Today.
Yes.
We've got our first big snow of the season, which I have to admit, I was so excited to be able to hang out with you. And I am not Zooming from home. So I kind of looked at the snow and I thought, it's such a cozy day to stay in. But this is so worth coming out to be able to hang out with you for a bit. We're doing this little series to kind of kick off a bigger celebration and acknowledgement of Mother Mary Ann's feast day. But also we just want to highlight the great work of a really amazing woman and human, and be mindful of the fact that there are things we can learn from the epidemic and the healing and hope she provided, in her lifetime compared to what we're going through right now in this pandemic. So I'm curious to know, like off the top of your head, is there something in your relationship with Mother Mary Ann that feels really unique to you?
I think with Mary Ann, it would have to be her attention to beauty and awe of God. Because one of the first things she did when she got to Kalapapa that was so barren from overgrazing of cattle is to plant trees, to plant fruit trees, to plant beautiful flowers, vegetables for people to eat, and really transforming that barren landscape into beauty. And not only the beauty of creation there with the pallies and the ocean surrounding it, but also the land, but more importantly, the people. Mm-hmm. And her dedication to ensuring that all the girls had beautiful dresses, beautiful hats, and taught them how to make lace, for income or to give away as gifts or whatever. The beauty within. Yeah. To really focus on the beauty within of the women who are there, the girls who are there. And so that's kind of what really resonates with me especially when I was able to go to Kalapapa.
Mm-hmm. When did you go there? What brought you there?
So when I became vocation minister in 2015, I went there to help foster vocations in Hawaii. There was a couple of women, I had a retreat. So part of my time there, the sister said, you need to go to Kalapapa. We arranged for it. So I had an overnight there with the sisters at St. Elizabeth Convent, and it was wonderful. Yeah. It was like, one, learning the isolation of Hawaii just by going there the first time, that it's like, you go across the United States and you take the United States and flip it over, 3 more time changes. You're in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. There's no islands around. It's really isolated. It's so isolated. There are not small like seagulls there. They can't make it out that way. There's no seagulls around water and ocean. You're like, where's the seagulls? They can't make it out that far, you know? And it's just like, wow, you know?
Yeah.
The isolation of the islands of Hawaii are crazy. And then you get to Kalapapa and the isolation is so much more. You're on this peninsula. The only way in and out is either to hike up a long cliff or to take a plane.
Have you done?
Yes.
Did you do the hike?
No, never got a chance to do the hike.
I didn't do the hike either. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then like the barge comes in with your yearly supplies of everything, you know, if your refrigerator breaks, there's no way of getting another refrigerator until the barge comes in the next year.
Yeah.
You know, and the isolation of that, and the food only comes in a certain time. You don't have everything totally accessible with you at one time. I was there at another time and I got an infection and I needed antibiotics. And I'm like, oh my, how do I do this? I don't want to take a plane home back to Honolulu because I won't be able to come back. I don't have the money. Yeah. And so I had to have my doctor call in a prescription to Honolulu. The sisters picked up the prescription and then brought it to the pilot who was flying into Molokai and then dropped it off to me. And it's just like, you know, the isolation that the sisters experienced even before aviation, you know, everything had to be on a boat and she got seasick, you know, so the isolation that the sisters endured in the early, you know, even today, you know, even from our community, the sisters, you know, everything's 6 hours or 5 hours difference, you know, it's really takes a lot of scheduling to make sure all the sisters are included in anything we do, even today.
Right. Yeah. And that has fallen to you in many ways in terms of, you know, conversations and meetings and just trying to stay present with one another, I would imagine too, right. You know? Yeah. You mentioned that distance from the mainland out to the islands of Hawaii. And I remember kind of being shocked that it was the same amount of time from the East Coast to the West Coast to Oahu. I don't know. I wasn't prepared for that. I was thinking it was really kind of that old saying, hop, skip, and a jump. But it's like a huge hop and skip and jump. And you're right. That really took some adjusting for my body too, you know? But you mentioned the isolation and you juxtapose it so eloquently with kind of the mindset that was about beauty. And I remember waking up in Kalapapa, and I've thought about this during the isolation of the pandemic. The first things that I saw when I opened my bedroom window was, you know, the avocado tree, or, you know, just felt the wind blowing. And in those first few weeks of lockdown here in March, I was so aware that there were more birds, more deer, more, you know, everything in nature was kind of creeping back out. And they were all here before us. So to see them come back and inhabit and share that space, I got really excited like a little kid in a Disney movie, you know, and it was so great. Now, you have done a lot with intention around caring for the environment and teaching and working with young people to have a connection to the land. Is that something that played a role in your calling to the sisterhood, or is it who you were as a little girl?
It has been with me since I was little. My dad if we went on vacation, we were camping.
Okay.
Right. So we never went anywhere where there's like a big city or anything. We always took vacations. Maybe to a theme park would be like, you know, something that my dad would just have to tolerate. But we always were camping. We had a pop-up camper, you know, and so Mom didn't want to sleep in a tent. She's like, get me a camper and we'll go camping. But,
okay. Your mom was the original glamper?
Yeah. So grew up outside. My grandparents on my dad's side lived on Little Sodus Bay, right on the bay.
Okay.
My grandparents on my mother's side lived right on the Swiggle River. So I had access to water. I grew up canoeing, all of that, just always out in nature, you know.
Yeah.
And back when I was little, you could just go outside and ride your bike anywhere, play in creeks, you know, even though I wasn't allowed to, still do it, you know, catch crayfish. So it was all part of me. I worked for the Fish and Wildlife Service, got a degree in wildlife biology, and restored wetlands. For 13 years, I worked with them and helped landowners restore some of the wildlife habitat on their property. So when I entered and learned about St. Francis being patron saint of ecology, at first I struggled with it because I knew the science, you know, like ecology wasn't even coined when St. Francis was alive. They didn't know any of this, you know, so what's up? But then through formation and learning about the Franciscan view of creation, I saw what I did, restoring wetlands or whatever, through a whole different lens. Everything I experienced when I was working out there just came alive, like the interconnectedness of everything, you know? You restore a wetland, you have to make sure that it doesn't go on another person's property. You have to pay attention to the water coming in to the wetland. So topography, soil, all of this would impact how I would restore a wetland. Well, that's just magnifies the interrelatedness, the interconnectedness of everything in creation. So when I first went through formation, I started really wanting to flesh that out more. So I worked at Alverna Heights as the Franciscan Ecology Coordinator. And so it really helped me to grow in understanding and be able to articulate like some of the Care for Creation stuff. Canticle Creatures, one of my favorite St. Francis poems that he wrote, prayers really. All of that just came alive. And Mary Ann, even though we didn't have any of that back then, she lived it at Kalapapa. You know, that creation was so important. The interconnectedness of a fruit tree and the dignity of a person, you know, it gives them something to eat, you know, beauty. St. Bonaventure says the first step of a soul to grow closer to God or grow into God is awe. Those experiences of God in awe brings us to God. Niagara Falls, you go and you're just in awe. A double rainbow, you're in awe. It opens your soul to something more, to the beauty of something bigger than yourself or your surroundings, the power of all that. And Mary Ann lived that at Kalapapa, you know, by making sure people had experiences of awe. Instead of seeing the polys and the ocean as a private prison, because that's pretty much what it was, by planting things there and making it more beautiful, they could see everything as awe instead of confining.
Yeah. And that ownership piece too, and the autonomy that develops by literally planting seeds and growing in your own years, in your own experience, along with a tree or a flower. It's a profound impact for sure. Yeah. I did not realize that you did the wetland restoration. Do you have, I don't know, is there like a favorite memory or favorite location or something that you carry with you even into today? That's like, like something you learned about yourself while you were doing it even, you know?
A lot. One, how to work with the interrelatedness between the bulldozer operator and the contractor I'm working with, the design that I created that the bulldozer operator might be able to see in a different way and add to it or tweak it to make it look better. And also, of course, the landowner and the input of the landowner on his land or her land, and to be able to help like know what the design is, but stay in the parameters of the program and the focus on wildlife, mostly waterfowl. And so working with so many different things and having to be able to listen, to say, I am not an engineer, you know, I am not a bulldoze operator. So please, I need your input. I know what I can do here. The landowner has given me the parameters and what they're looking for. So I have to come up with a design, but be able to tweak it enough so that it comes out even better of what just my skills could bring it to. So that really helps me all the time, you know, and anywhere I go, to work as a team, to listen, to know what my own limitations are so that I can find people to fill in those extras. And that all takes humility. You know, I'm not called to do it all myself, even though sometimes I'm still very independent and want to do it all myself, you know, but really things come out better when you have the more people you have working on it sometimes. To work, to listen, you know, to be able to say, to let go of what I wanted, but to listen to the landowner and have the courage to say, I'm sorry, but your view isn't necessarily fitting the parameters and you're not going to be happy with this, you know, or to say, oh yes, this is wonderful. How about we tweak it this way? And then listen to the expert who makes it, you know, has been on a bulldozer forever and knows the best way of creating this, to listen to their advice as well. And that's what Marianne Pope did, I think. You know, she worked with so many leaders and the sisters that were there to one, have humility in action. That's what I came up for Marianne. You know, she was so humble. All her letters just show how humble she is. But boy, if you crossed anyone that she's working with, whoa, you know? Right. And so to be able to take that humility, but have a voice and speak with authority and speak to protect those who you're serving, but being able to do it in a humble way, like you know, our Franciscan charism, right? So she's like one of the best models of that because she spoke with such authority that she got people's attention and they listened to her. But, you know, it wasn't just her ideas. I'm sure she worked as a team with the other sisters who were there. You know, we forget about the other sisters who were there with her, but they are just as much in the story as Marianne is. You know, you need a leader. She was the leader, but they worked, you know, around the clock, 24/7, and without having a compassionate, humble leader, you're not going to want to do what they ask you to. You know, you're going to say, I'm not going to work that long hours for you. But she was able to be a servant leader. And so she had the respect from people to be able to, that would do anything for her. And that's her testament. Humility in action. And that's my biggest learning curve right now, is to know when to speak up, when to, like St. Francis used to say, that we need to have the poverty of the purse of our own opinion. Everyone does not need to know all the time what Caryn is feeling or thinking or her views on things. You know, just let people share their views and say, oh, thank you for sharing. They don't for my view, you know? The humility to just listen, you know? And so it's one of my biggest growing edges right now. So it's what I'm asking Marianne to help me with these days.
Do you have, I mean, do you have a specific prayer or meditation, or are you doing little exercises throughout the day as reminders? I mean, it's a blanket intention, and I hear that. I think it's so important. And again, there's so much more opportunity right now to get comfortable with quiet. And I think we're seeing a lot of people struggle with that. And sometimes they fill space with words.
I don't do a lot of like recitation of written prayers, except for in the morning prayer. We have our morning prayer, Franciscan morning and evening praise that we do in the morning here at the House of Discernment. But for the most part, I just either sit and quiet and listen, or I say, oh God, help me with this, you know? Okay, Caryn, you do help me keep my mouth closed and open my ears, you know. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, what was I just, you said something. Give me a second. I'll go back to it. It had to do with listening. Clearly, I'm not a good listener because I'm trying to think of what you said about listening. Oh, you mentioned poetry as prayer. And I love that you say that. And you and I have had a lot of conversations and chances to have retreat time with groups of people where I think just allowing for prayer to not have clearly defined edges, but to be seen the same way you're saying Mother Mary Ann saw beauty and awe in this place of desolation, isolation, and at times lawlessness. She still was able to soften that. And I think being able to tell people, because we are in this global experience as a global community experiencing this pandemic. And I find, you know, a lot of times in conversation with people who are from different faiths or different belief systems, sometimes they have a more rigid mind because that's their coping mechanism or survival skill. And so I love to hear you say that one person's prayer, I mean, I'm putting words in your mouth now, but it's like one person's prayer is another person's poem, and there's still room to feel connected and soften those edges so that we can have a more shared experience. You know, I've seen that with the work that you do every day, you know, from the time you and I first met, which is how many years now have we been friends? It's like, well, when did you enter?
2005.
Okay. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I guess I forgot that you entered the year of the beatification.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
2004 was the venerable,
Right.
right? And then the beatification and then the canonization really forms my whole initial formation within the Sisters of St. Francis.
Wow. Did you go to both of those
I
ceremonies?
didn't go to any of
Okay.
them. One reason is because I was new to community and I knew sisters knew her and were more energized towards that than I was because I didn't know her.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was in the process of really learning to do that. And plus I wanted to have the sisters who really wanted to go, who have been in it the whole distance to be able to go.
Yeah.
And so, so I didn't go to any of the.
Did you watch it? Like, what was your experience in terms of witnessing it, other than just celebrating your sisters and giving them the chance to go? Did you get up early and watch the first viewing?
Of course.
Okay.
I think the best thing was I wanted to enter to be a part of something bigger than myself, you know, because my world was getting really small. I lived by myself. I had my own career. I did pretty much what I wanted. And I just felt God calling me to more, to be, you know, something. And so being part of something bigger really was what attracted me, I think, to religious life and giving me the support to grow. So when I was watching the canonization on television, and seeing our sisters go up to the Pope and giving them a gift, you know, saying, this is my community, not only with Mary Ann, but Kateri Tekakwitha or Gadali.
Yeah.
And to have both of them within like 2 hours away, you know, Mary Ann grew up in Utica. Gadali grew up very close, you know, maybe an hour away in Fonda. And then to have them so close and canonized on the same day with a lot of the same kind of perseverance, humility, drive, and knowing what they needed to do and doing it, you know. To have them both canonized the same day was just incredible, you know. So it was just like such an awe experience to see one of our members lifted up, but also to have our sisters there and say, wow, you know, we're part of something so much bigger now, you know.
And you're so right, because both of these people who we call saints were so mindful and respectful of indigenous and native communities, populations, history. You know, I think about that because with all the protests and new awareness happening for so many people at this time in history, you know, there are now websites devoted where you can kind of, I don't know if it's a zip code, but you can basically plug in where you live, and it says, this is the land that you live on. And my mom was actually in a book club that kind of talked about race awareness and just, you know, different populations of people and experiences that maybe were not familiar to her when she was in high school, but now she's learning more about, and she's choosing to learn more about, because I think that is a piece of it. But there was a person in her book club who said now when she meets new people, she will say, what land do you live on? And she said she can kind of gauge where they are, you know, in terms of how broad or narrow the conversation might need to be, or, you know, how willing someone might be for what they know and what they want to know about their connection to that land in a way that goes back to the people who were here before we were. And we have this amazing model with both of these saints, and we're so fortunate.
Yeah.
This is just, I'm just loving hearing what you have to say about this. You and I did a workshop. Well, you did the work on the workshop and I showed up with my jazz hands, but could you talk a little bit more about what discernment means for you, or what how you might take a through line from what you learned of Mother Mary Ann, and then how you communicate that to people in vocation, or those not in religious vocation, but searching for purpose in their day-to-day life, or at this opportunity we're given now, where I think people are kind of saying, oh, maybe my office day of 8 hours, now that I'm home, now that I don't have a commute, now that kids are in the background on Zoom, or maybe there are people who have kind of that digital divide and they're not able to access things that make them feel well or make them feel like they're contributing. Can you just speak to discernment a little bit?
Yeah, so I started this House of Discernment in Pittsburgh because as a vocation minister, working with women who are interested in entering religious life, I see that they need more time to discern. So in Mary Ann's time, a woman um, um, got through school, or maybe not, had a job, got married, had kids. They could be a nurse, they could be a teacher, you know, they might be a secretary, but that was it. You know, there was nothing more, for very few options. There were women who did a lot more back then, but very hard to get through and do more than the careers for women, right? And so today, everything is so open. There's so many paths you can take to for a career, for social justice. I mean, you can work for Franciscan Action Network. You can volunteer for a local peace and justice chapter, or whatever. There's so much things you can do. So how do you take the thousands of options before you and whittle them down? You know? And there's so many distractions today because we have cell phones. Everything is at our tips. We can research more. We can even find, well, this is a good job, but how about I can find something better? And we can get stuck in this finding perfection and finding the perfect thing God is calling me to. Am I really listening to what God is telling me? And I think it comes down to what door is open before you. We were just talking about doors yesterday. But, you know, God puts doors in front of us to walk through. So this House of Discernment, I'm like, okay, well, I think women need a house, a place to come and move where they can, we can have communal prayer, personal prayer, but you're supported by other women who are also discerning. So have those conversations of what discernment is like and how are you doing with your discernment, and just general conversations throughout the house, you know, support each other in that. Marianne is the prime example of discernment, I think, for me, because she gets this letter from a Sacred Heart father, right? And then she reads it, brings it to the community, and says, sisters, we've received this. What do you think? And together they had the discussion, right? So discernment isn't done in isolation, right? It's with you and it's with God. But, when you talk with someone who you trust, they're able to say, this is what I hear you saying. Is that what you mean? And you're like, no, that's not what I mean. So maybe this isn't for me. Or, yes, that's exactly what I mean. Well, then what's available out there for you to do? Mm-hmm. And I think Marianne and the sisters had the courage to say, this is ours to do. And it's the courage to stop looking and searching for the perfect, but to accept the door in front of you at this time and walk through. Mm-hmm. So I ended up in Pittsburgh because our community, small local community houses were closing down, and the sisters were moving into another building. And so that local small convent feel was only in one other house in this whole area with our community. And the other thing is Pittsburgh is larger, there's more job opportunities, and there's better public transportation. So for women who don't have a car, they can get around a little bit better because it is a larger city, right? So with all that in mind, I said, okay, the House of Discernment has to be in Pittsburgh. But I always had it that sisters in Pittsburgh were going to move into the house and manage it, and I would come once a month. Okay. To like organize it, do conflict resolution, community building activities or whatever, and meet with the people one-on-one, make sure everything's fine, then go back home. And this is the way God helps me discern. He does not, he puts an idea in me and I'm like, oh, this is great, let's go do it. Boom, we're into it. There's no discernment. There's like, okay, it's something in my heart. I know it's of God, dive in the deep end. And then God reveals slowly to me all the details, because if I knew him in the beginning, would I have had the courage to do it?
Yeah.
So discernment has to take into consideration, who am I? How do I discern is right for me, right? And so what best works for me and God, because God created me a special way to communicate, especially with me. So how does God communicate with you? First, you have to figure that out, to figure out how to discern where God's calling you. So, but really it's having the courage to take that step through the door and stop looking for all the other options. It's good to do a little research, but if all you are is an analysis paralysis, it's not of God, so to understand in discernment of when to say, okay, this is it, and try it out. And if it doesn't work, God will provide another door for you.
You mentioned this now, and you're not there once a month. You're there pretty full time, right? So I'm drawing a comparison about how Mother went to Hawaii, thinking back, and that did not play out that way. And her purpose kept being revealed, and as with the sisters that she was with. But I also immediately remember talking to you the morning you were supposed to leave and your van broke down.
Yes.
So that's just hilarious to me in the context of discernment, because someone else might be like, this is a sign I'm not supposed to go, and for you were like, well, the van's broken down, but that's going to get me there. And I think it's really funny that Pittsburgh also, part of the formation formation's not in community context, but literally the formation of Pittsburgh so that other women could come and go more freely without having to worry about things like the van breaking down. So that just sounds like you are on your path always and so aware of it. And I do love that discernment is not dismissive. I think sometimes we get caught up, like you're saying, in that perfection model and get so trapped and think that there needs to be shame attached to any doubt we might have. Where really what you're saying about the conflict resolution and the dialogue and not being in your own head, you have to kind of examine all of it. Because if you're not acknowledging yourself as a whole person and a whole being, how can you expect to be able to put all of you into a job or a path or a calling, right? I mean, yeah. I don't know. Tell me something that's made you laugh and giggle lately. We need more joy.
Well, normally what's right here that I set up my, I had a nativity set up here. So it's a little crazy, but I'll show you what it is.
Oh, good. Okay.
So
are those ducks?
They are. It's a nativity of ducks.
Nice.
So just to show.
Okay, yeah.
This is baby Jesus, right? And so, but it cracks me up because it's so Franciscan. You have this nativity of, all creation praises God.
Right.
It's so Franciscan, right? All creation. Birds are singing, they're praising God. They're doing what God created them to do, therefore they're praising God. When you do what you were created for, then you're praising God, right? So all of creation praises God just by being what God created them to be, right? And so it reminds me that even in this Christmas season that's coming up, that creation is awaiting the coming of Jesus. When Jesus came and was incarnated in our own flesh, validating the goodness of the human person and all creation by coming here and being part of us and knowing that Jesus's essence, I keep kind of circulating throughout this world, his breath, his skin cells, that flaked off and went down. His essence is still kind of circulating through this creation, glorifying it. So all creation sings God's praise. And with this snow, I had to shovel twice and I was so happy. I love shoveling. I love snow and I love shoveling. And last year it was like there was hardly any snow in Pittsburgh. Now we have a foot and it's so exciting. It's beautiful. All the snow on the trees, and there's a quietness when there's this much snow.
Yeah.
The sound is kind of muffled and you can hear creation a little bit more, with the muffling and that peace. The Prince of Peace who comes on Christmas, you can feel it in the snow.
I adore you. And you talk about Mother Mary Ann having humility and action. You have such a wonderful ability and capacity for childlike wonderment and wisdom beyond your years. And I am so grateful to you for sharing all these parts of yourself in this conversation as we celebrate the work of the sisters, the model of Mother Mary Ann, and leading up to all the community building that all of you have done collectively that benefits so many.
Oh, thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Just thank you for you,
Aww.
Oh, you and your mom and all the wonderful things you do and all of the support you have given me and the community over the years. We are so blessed to have you in our lives.
Thanks, friend. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Well, this will be something we share out after the first of the year. So to new beginnings and more adventures. I love you, and we'll talk soon, okay? Thank you.
You too.
Okay.
God bless.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.